Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming in and for hanging around just for a little bit. We wanted to take a moment today to speak to how are things going. I mean, there's a variety of opinions and ways of looking at things, but I wanted to have a chance to give you a little bit of a kind of an update on how it is that we perceive that ministry is going here. Now, I want to preface that by making reference to the Synod Assembly that I was privileged to attend yesterday and Friday with Nathan and Lori Martin and Fred. And I mean, meetings like that are always kind of but what was cool about this was that the message, the theme of the whole thing was called A New Boat. A New Boat. And the way in which the bishop described the reality of the church today was 100% consistent with what I've been saying here, and even from almost time immemorial, that we are about to get into a new boat. And the one example that I wanted to use that he used two. One in his sermon on the first day, and one in his bishop's address to the assembly, which I would encourage you all. I don't know if that kind of thing is recorded on the website or not.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. That link's on there.
So his address.
I mean, it's all on one YouTube stream.
Okay, so yeah, part of it is like seriously boring, so you won't want to watch the whole thing. But the part where you get to his address, listen to that because that's good. But first, the sermon. It was based on Matthew 14. You know the text where, I suppose I should look it up and read it to you. Can you look it up for me? Matthew 14, 22 to whatever. It's where Jesus sends the disciples after the feeding of the 5,000 out onto the boat and then says, I'll join you later. And a big storm comes up, and they're terrified because of what's happening in the boat. The boat is rocking all over the place, but the storm is terrifying. But it's best if he can read it. Can you find it? Can you read it for us? You want to put, Blake, could you put on his mic too, please? Or I could read it. You think between the two of us we'd have access to a Bible?
Matthew 12.
Matthew 14, I think it's... Okay, he's got it.
My iPad decided to not work with me just at this moment. So, Matthew 14, starting at verse 22.
Yeah, that was it.
Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Jesus got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and was beginning to sink. So he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." When they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret. When the men of that place recognized Jesus, they sent word to all the surrounding country. People brought all their sick to him and begged him to let the sick just touch the edge of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed.
Okay. So Bishop Dave used this text to describe basically what it means to walk in faith, to walk with the Lord. He said that to be a Christian in the world today, in a world that is fraught with polarization and division and hatred and meanness and cruelty one to the other, being invited by Jesus to come into the church is being invited into a storm. Jesus didn't calm the water for Peter. He said, "Come now, in the midst of this mess, in the midst of this horrible stuff, come." And Peter, when he had his eyes focused on Jesus, he was cool for a minute. or two, until he took his eyes off Jesus, and then he began to sink. And Bishop Dave told us that, in his judgment, that's very much what seems to be happening in the life of the church right now. The church is struggling in so many different ways, and these are struggles that we are living here at Our Redeemer. But if we remain faithful, and if we get out of the boat, walk into the storm, to face the challenges that we're called upon to face, some cool stuff can happen, some good stuff can happen. But it's going to mean a change. It's going to mean that things have to go a bit differently. And part of the reason I had you all sit over here is because it forced most of you to change where you sit. And I knew that would make you just a bit uncomfortable to start with. But we have to be prepared to face the possibility of change. In his address, he referred to a book, and I forget the guy's name. Is it Shacklefield? The guy who was the voyager that went from, the plan was for him to sail a boat to one side of the Antarctic, Shackleton, right, and then to take the dog sleds across to the other side and go back. And of course, nothing worked out the way that it was planned. Nothing worked out the way that they wanted. But what was interesting about this, and I don't know how he found this, but he found the ad that was put into the newspaper to get people to come. And it said, it was horrible. Like, basically, you're probably going to die. It's going to be hard work. You may not have enough food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And hundreds of people wanted to sign up for these 27 posts that seemed to be preaching nothing but hopelessness. That in the face...
I found it.
Oh, okay. Endeavor, endurance. Endurance.
And the ad said, men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success.
In case of success. So there was an overwhelming sense of doubt and fear that was all about that. But yet, a whole bunch of people stepped up to get these 27 positions in the boats. And they were to get in this big boat, go and do their thing and so forth. But they encountered all kinds of difficulties and were stuck. And the whole thing took 2 years. They ate whatever they could, if they found seals, if they found fish and so forth. They even eventually, apparently, and this is kind of gross, but they had to eat their dogs. But all 27 of them survived. All 27 of them survived because they remembered why they were doing what they were doing. They weren't doing it for wealth. They weren't doing it for glory. They were doing it for a particular purpose, the why of who they were. And so Bishop Dave invited all of us to try to think about, to try to remember, to try to reflect on the why of what it is the church is all about. Why do we do what we do? Now, with those things in mind, I want to share with you some of the things that have happened here. Now, the bad stuff, the difficult stuff, the stressful stuff you all know about. We have had a never-ending stream of financial challenges, bills, starting with the insurance thing last year. You all remember that, a $17,000 cost for annual insurance went up to $58 or $59 or something like that, which is to this day hard to bear. The taxes that we now have to pay that we never had to pay before. And then $40,000 for water repairs and all of the electrical stuff that was done. All these things just seem to be the devil kicking us in the stomach at every step, just to say, no, you're not going to win. No, you're not going to win. No, you're not going to win. And it does give one a feeling of discouragement sometimes. I mean, even last week, or the week before, I guess, because I was away last week. The week before, the big deal was bees. We had a beehive in the whatever that's up there, attic, I guess, in the front of the church. And that was like a couple $1,000s to get rid of these silly bees. It was kind of cool to watch because there was a crane out there and stuff. But still, just one thing after another, and it can get you down if you don't remain focused on the why of who you are and what you're doing. Now, methodologically, in order to achieve that why, every pastor, every church leader has a different way of doing it, has their own interpretation or way of doing it. And the approach that I've taken is encapsulated in a paradigm that I developed some years ago that has worked very well for me. Now, it isn't universally appreciated, but it's worked. And that is this: the 4 faces of mission. That is dividing that which we do, that which we're called, oh, there we are, that's cool. That which we're called to do in 4 basic categories. What are the 4 faces of mission? Can you go to the parish one? So parish mission is serving the community of our Redeemer, taking care of ourselves. Now, this is a hugely important one because we have to take care of the people that pay the bills. We have to take care of the souls that are around us, the brothers and sisters that we know. Absolutely no doubt about that. And it is a critical focus for us, but it is not the only focus for us. And sometimes churches have a proclivity for assuming that the only thing we need to be looking at is inwardly. That's not correct. It is important, but not the only thing. So what do? We have worship. We have worship opportunities, and in the coming year, we may well expand on our worship opportunities. We've been in conversation about how successful are we with the blended worship, and should we transition back to a more traditional and a contemporary service or whatever? What are resources that we have that make those possibilities available to us? So we're considering all of these things, not just to take care of us who are here, but the us who aren't here. In other words, how do we invite more people to come in? And we have seen people coming in that don't look like us, don't look like one of us, because they're not. They haven't been here before, and it makes us a little bit twitchy to have new people here. But we're going to keep trying. Our Bible studies, and we've studied a variety of topics, fellowship opportunities, property maintenance. That's something. Good stewardship of our property is important, right? We got to take care of the place, because if we don't have a decent place to worship, we don't have a place to worship. And if we don't have a place to worship, that makes life a bit complicated. So we got to take care of the place, and we've been attempting to do precisely that as best we can. Council and committees, we have a grouping of people that work tirelessly, that work all the time, and there are some people that are on like almost every committee. It's worrisome, because you worry that people are going to burn themselves out in service and even become embittered by that service. And so we want to encourage more and more people to participate in that ministry. But we have in our parish here a very active part when it comes to parish mission. We do this well. We take care of ourselves well. Now, can we improve? Absolutely. There are things that we can do that will make our lives easier and make our ministry more effective. They're going to be different, for sure. Some will be the same, but we can do these things, and we're going to seek to try to work on them. Can you go to the next slide, please? Oh, okay, so you've got some of these things enumerated for us. Completed property projects, the campus Wi-Fi installation, the room 1 renovation where Pastor Fatou is over there, the pool filter repaired. And that was actually a big deal, because there was something that was leaking like crazy and they had to rework that. So that was done. The water main repiped, that was the $40,000 thing that I mentioned. The office pipe that was repaired, it was up in the ceiling. That was a big deal. The beehive removed, the broken ceiling tiles replaced, ministry center renovation, broken alarm system. I think I missed that one.
That was when you were gone.
Okay. Oh, good. Something happened when I was gone. Waste disposal improvements, all kinds of things that have required our attention, but we've done it because we had to take care of our building. Next. Upcoming property projects. Now, this is going to bum you out if you focus on this. Remember, we're not going to focus on this. We're going to focus on the reason why we are who we are. But these are things we have to seriously consider. Roof replacement. Our roof is in, for lack of a better expression, terrible condition. And not only are the shingles compromised, but it's very likely that the, I can't think in English now, contreplaqué. Comment dit-on contreplaqué en anglais? Plywood. Yeah, it's probably true that the plywood is also rotten. So all of this is going to cost, I don't even know how much. But, and then when you consider that the shingles are of such an age that they're very likely made with asbestos, I don't even know how you do remediation on a roof, but it's going to be a problem. So there's that. There's the sealing and slurry coating of the parking lot, the repairing, the drain over here. A lake happens every year whenever it rains, and so that clearly needs to be fixed. HVAC, our systems have been repaired over and over and over again over the years, but what is true is that they are tired. And someday they will pass, and when they pass, we'll just have to fix them, and that's also going to be a big deal. and a variety of other things. All of these are things that we have to be attentive to and make good decisions about because they're important. Again, a part of parish mission, taking care of the core of who we are. Next. Local mission. Now, of the four faces of mission that I often talk about, the first is parish mission, what we do right here on campus. The second is, what do you do right around us? One of the things that I have really cherished since I've been here is Lori Klevos's drive to get the ministry center going. She's a bit intimidating sometimes, but she gets it done. And the ministry center is a blessing to us because what it does is it provides an opportunity for us to be in service to God's people who are literally right around us. We have an opportunity to provide blessings and food for people who don't have enough, to provide clothing for people who don't have enough. So this has been a wonderful kind of thing. We've opened what's called the Grassroots Market, which is essentially a free store. Oh, Good Roots. Sorry. Yeah. It's kind of tiny letters up there. The Good Roots Market, which is essentially a free store for folks to come in and pick up things of their own choosing. The basic deal is that they make appointments in the afternoon and they can come for a certain period of time and get a couple bags of groceries. There is also a time for people from, I think it's 9 in the morning until 1 or something like that, for walk-ins to come to pick up things as well. There's also the Good Roots Closet where people can select from a wide variety of clothes that they can take for free, 1 set per week kind of thing. We have partnerships with Healthcare in Action, with Second Harvest Food Bank, with Ralph's. They provide us with food that they cannot make use of, with Be Well, which is a mental health grouping for the county. The Lord's Pantry is in partnership with the Orange County Food Bank. Tri-Cities Navigation Center is the shelter that helps people who are unhoused and provides them housing based upon a recommendation by the police department. A lot of counseling that we do here in the church and online, partnership with the Garden Grove Police Department, and we have scholarships as well. So there are things that we're doing to help around us, not just us, but around us. Now, the third face of mission is what we do domestically. That also has changed a little bit, or didn't roll out in the way that I'd anticipated, but nonetheless is pretty cool. And is causing even the Synod to reflect on the way that we have our groupings. Normally in the Synod, the church, we have the ELCA, the large ELCA, broken down into regions. We're part of what is called Region 2, and that involves 5 different synods: the Sierra Pacific, Southwest California Synod, the Pacifica Synod, Rocky Mountain Synod, and the Grand Canyon Synod. Those 5 synods create or form what is called Region 2 of the ELCA. And within each of the regions, there are synods, the 5 of which I just enumerated for us. And within each synod, there are conferences. And we are part of the Sun and Surf Conference. Now, because our dean, Kindley Lund, took a call a month or 2 after I got here to Christ Pacific Beach in San Diego, we've not really had any conference gatherings. But what's really cool is I had lunch one day with Pastor Carol from Mount Calvary. And I said to her, don't you think we could maybe do something? And she said, sure. And so what I had a vision of was actually going to different churches and trading off so that our communities could be drawn together. And it didn't roll out the way that I had thought, but it rolled out in a cool way. We did sermons for the month of August on the Bread of Life series in the Gospel of John, and we shared those. That went over pretty well. And then in Lent, we did the same thing for our Lenten services. And culminating in the Maundy Thursday service at Bethlehem in Los Alamitos, to which we invited both bishops, because now that grouping is not just our conference. There's 3 different conferences involved and 2 synods. So we had 2 bishops from the Southwest and the Pacifica Synod that joined us. So these are things that we are doing together to be church stronger together, to think of ways in which we can work together. And I have to tell you that not this coming Saturday, but the next one, the 31st of May, we've been invited to participate with the Synod with a bunch of other congregations, and I don't even know which ones, but 1 in Santa Ana, 2 in Orange, us, I think very likely also St. Olaf, Mount Calvary, Bethlehem, a whole bunch of us, to talk about ways that we can refashion what it means to be church. How can we be church together? And this isn't just a wishful thinking, because of those churches I just enumerated, there's a half a dozen that are failing, that are not going to make it much longer in this world, because the only thing they have left to them is the physical plant, their buildings, and they're living off of the resources that they have with those assets. So we have to figure out, how can we be church together better? And so, as stressful as that kind of conversation sounds, it's good, because finally we're not just ignoring it and pretending that we can be the way that we have been since the 1970s, but that we might have to do something a little bit differently, and the church is embracing this. It's not just me. You're not the only group with a lunatic pastor. So we're working on a plan that is exciting together. And we've had here as well, our Welca groups have gotten together with other women's groups of the congregations in this unusual grouping of the two synods. So it's taking hold. Now, these kinds of changes are scary. These kinds of changes are off-putting, because it's not the way we always used to do it. But they're important, because it brings us together, and we bring together a greater, larger body of Christ to get stuff done. Other things that we're involved in are the Kairos ministry, the SHIP ministry, which is now closed, disaster relief that we participate in, global hunger, all of these kinds of things. Our congregation is participating with other Lutheran churches in our area to get God's work done in the world. And it's kind of exciting. And the fourth part of that paradigm now is global mission. We've taken a mission trip now, some of us, to a place which for some people was a bit scary at first, but met with God's people in that place to whom we could offer service, to whom we could show love. And one of the things that I've discovered in my lifetime is that once you know somebody and once you love them, it's hard to stop loving them. Once you're in relationship with somebody and they trust you because they know that you love them, it's hard to stop loving them. And so this provides for us, again, an opportunity. It's not anything written in stone, but it's an opportunity for us to think about how we can best be church together in a world where church is of declining importance, it would seem. If you look at the way in which mainstream Protestant churches are declining everywhere, this is a paradigm that works, that gets us together with others. Now, the good news is that in face of, or in spite of, all of the financial challenges we've had this year, and there have been many, we're running in the black. I mean, if it weren't for all these extraneous things that keep happening with remarkable frequency, we're doing fine. People are giving well, people are consistent with their giving and wanting to participate in serving in the world. And so this is a time at which I think we need to be grateful for what God has done for us, thankful for the opportunities that God has given us, and excited about things that we can do going forward. What we can't do, and this may not make you real happy, but what we can't do is continue to do the things that were modeled on a pattern that assumed that we were self-sufficient, because we cannot be. We're in God's world together with others, and we have to embrace that as a mission opportunity, not something of which to be afraid. Although, like the bishop said in his sermon, it is rather like walking out onto the water in the middle of a storm. But nonetheless, that's the place where we're going to find life. Do you want to add anything?
At this moment?
Yeah, at this moment, sure. Do you want to wait for 5 minutes, or? If you don't have anything that you want to add right now, is it okay if I take questions? Anybody have any comments or questions, or maybe just ask Lori, since you were at the Synod Assembly, what was your reaction to what you heard and saw and felt there?
I'm sure they can hear me without the microphone.
No, they can't.
Basically, exactly what you're talking about. There are so many churches that are failing fast, and we have to figure out a way to keep them alive, to keep us alive, and to keep growing. And they were talking about exactly some of the things that have been happening here. The water breaks, all sorts of things. And we have to realize that we still can worship, but does it have to be in the same house? Does it have to be this house? If the repairs are becoming more and more and more, we have to start rethinking, what can we do? Where can we go? We can still worship the Lord. We can still be together. But we have to start thinking outside of our little box. And that's hard for us. It's hard for me. I've been here a long time. But that's where our mind has to start focusing on, is what can we do to keep growing, to stay alive, to stay together. And we are doing some of those things already, like Pastor said, by joining with other churches. So it's not going to be maybe a comfortable thing for some of us, but it's going to be a great thing for us.
Well, just to piggyback on that, I think part of the question is not just how do we survive, but how do we thrive as a church? And that, because if you kind of think of it in the way that doctors approach healthcare, the conversation is not just how to keep somebody alive for as long as possible. The question is also about quality of life. That how well somebody can move, how much pain somebody is in. Those are considerations as well for doctors, as well as our considerations in terms of how we move forward as a church. We don't want to just survive. We want to have a quality of mission and ministry here. And the question is, that has been on my heart lately, is if all of our attention is on property and on all of our money is spent fixing a roof, are we living our best life as a church community? I don't have a solution for necessarily the best path forward, but I'm drawing into questions of what is our quality of ministry? What is our quality of mission here as a community? Is it going to be limping along, trying to hold on to this building for as long as possible? Is it going to be about investing in these other faces of mission, the global mission and local mission and domestic mission? And hopefully we can discern that moving forward. This is not an easy decision, and it's going to be one that's going to take a lot of discernment from our council.
Do you have access to the little circles that Bishop Dave had of the why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Remember that the why, the how, and the what?
I can see if I can find it.
Yeah. He had a series of, concentric circles in which he said that the key to success in ministry, no matter what paradigm you use, is that you got to know why you're doing what you're doing. You've got to have a sense of your raison d'être, your purpose. And if your purpose is the proclamation of the gospel, everything else comes into focus. If your purpose is sharing the gospel of the Lord, living love with people with whom you're associated, then everything falls into perspective. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have roofs falling apart. You still have to figure out how to deal with that. But you got to drag yourself back to the place of, why am I doing this? Why are we a member of this church? Why are we interested in doing these kinds of things? And he'll find it eventually. Jerry?
I wonder if you could speak to one thing I didn't see included in any of these, and that is the shared ministries on campus. Living Word, I'd like to know what the sort of status and view toward the mortuary is. These are obviously very large sources of
Income.
Mm-hmm. And there had been, possibility of another church also occurring on campus. So, I mean, I've always viewed the property as in our trust, and expanding and accepting other ministries all serve a bigger purpose than just our Redeemer. The sort of shared Christian ministries, which is many churches have found that path very important. So how open are we, when we talk about things will be different, willing to change, to pursuing more actively, or are we bringing on other churches who can sort of share the financial overhead in various ways?
Okay. I want to speak to that first. Carol's jumping out of her skin there, so we're going to let her talk after. But first this, I think that we're open to any possibility where we can share in our mission. Any possibility. But what I can also tell, did everybody hear what he said? Yeah. Not really. Okay. Can you just say it really briefly again, like bullet points?
Something we hadn't seen on the slides was the status of the shared ministries, Living Word, the mortuary, which helps pay the bills, but it's not really a church in itself. And what is the status of being really open or pursuing more actively, bringing on other Christian ministries to share our physical plan? It's sort of underutilized in the sense that most of the activities are Sunday morning.
Yep. Okay. Carol, do you want to?
To answer your question, Jerry, we are pursuing other things at all times. We had, as Pastor Luther alluded to, we had a visit from the Garden Grove and the Orange County Tax Group this year for the first time in 20 to 40 years, and that $4,000 that we used to spend on taxes grew to 26, and the council almost had apoplexy. And then Lori Clevos got in gear, and between her and Sherwood and the rest of us, we measured all of the area that Sunnyside, which is a for-profit, that came about during Pastor Brian's time here, and we'd never been notified anything about it. She put together the paperwork, sent it back, and the $26,000 bill became $8,000. We also had a lawyer who worked with us and continues to work with us. His name is Ryan Bouchard, and you can all check him out. He's been working with Pacifica Synod for the last 15 to 20 years at least. He gave us ideas. We wrote to Sunnyside. They wrote back to us. And in the meantime, our taxes went from $26,000 to $8,000. And they bring in approximately $3,300 per month. And it has escalated by 3% every single year that they've been here. And so we looked at a wide variety of things. One of the things we certainly don't want to be is sued by somebody who's got a lease with us for the next 5 years. And that was signed. And I will tell you that I finally said, thank you very much. We are not going to go back to Sunnyside and say, you have to leave, because they do have a lease for the next 5 years. In the meantime, we had 2 churches that wanted to come and use our facilities, and we gave them the amount we wanted. And they said, oh, no, thank you, we found someplace else. Are we always looking for new people? New Christian facilities? Yes, of course we are. Pastor Fatu had problems with giving us the money that we were asking at that point. And again, Lori Clevos went into action, and you probably know by now that Room 1 has become where Pastor Fatu worships on Sundays. It's much more the space that he wants, and he's paying his bill again. We reduced the bill, but by the same token, it's a whole lot better to get a rent every month than it is to say, oh, well, I guess we'll just ignore that. And we did that for a lot of years with Victory Outreach. So consequently, yes, Jerry, we are always looking for new Christian people to be on this campus. Living Word has been a tremendous tenant. Pastor Fatu has been a pretty good tenant, and actually Sunnyside has paid every single month. And they are a mortuary with Christian and other kinds of religions. Does that help?
So, I want to add something to that too, because just different than what she said, because it's not just about bringing people in. Oh, there you found it. Good. Not just about bringing people in to help pay the bills. There's that for sure, and that's helpful. But I'm not sure if I understood your question right, but if you're asking if there's ways in which we can engage with other Christian communities to welcome them into our community, that we could do this better from this place, then yes, we are involved in that. In fact, with our own synod, this meeting that we're having in 2 weeks on Saturday the 31st is in some measure partly that, to find out what can we do better. Like, for example, if the 5 or 6 or 7 congregations that are struggling right now all need like an accountant, a bookkeeper, wouldn't it be good for us if we could hire one together rather than trying to struggle on our own to find people who may or may not be able to do it? I'm just using that as an example. Or a parish administrator or whatever. There are ways that we can do things together, and that means that those kinds of cooperative ventures can happen on our properties together, so we can work together. If there are other churches, you can't invent them, but we have had churches come to us and say, can we rent space from you? And of course, we're going to entertain that. Your council, you need to know, is very diligent about crossing all the T's and dotting the I's and all that kind of stuff to make sure that people, and we thought we had that one guy, forget the name of that one. Remember the one that we moved Fatu for? What was it called? Anyways, there was a church that had promised, and then at the last second, like literally Saturday night, said, sorry, we found another place. And that was a bit disappointing, but it happens, So we're doing our best to make ourselves as open as we can to make this facility viable. Any other thoughts or questions? What I want you to know is that you should be happy for how blessed you are. There are places that are in a lot worse shape than we are. There are situations that are a lot more grave than the one that we sometimes face. And we have nothing but good choices ahead of us. Are we ready to serve God in the service of God's people by doing it? Not expecting things to be the way they were in 1970, because that's not going to happen. It won't happen. There are no methodologies, there are no medications, there are no things that we can use to get people's, as they say, butts in the pews. All we can do is proclaim God's love in a world that needs to hear it. And that's why we exist. That's the why. Is that up there? So, what Bishop Dave said is we have the why. As long as we remember the why, everything else falls into place. Our purpose. Why do we do what we do? Why do we exist? We exist not because we like coming to a building on Magnolia in Garden Grove. We exist because we're a family of God that's dedicated to serving God in the world, showing God's love to the world. How do we do what we do? Well, that has to transition over time because things change. People retire, people pass on, people's children grow up and move away, et cetera, et cetera. And what do we do? What are the results of what we do? So these are things that help us to keep perspective. And as long as we remember why we do what we do, we're going to be in a good place. And we have nothing but gratitude to have because God has blessed us. God has blessed us ridiculously. Wendy? Wait. Yeah.
Just referencing in the black statement you made about our finances.
Yeah.
Are we able to restore the salaries that we cut? Like the accompanist and ands and so forth. Are we able to restore that back to where it was?
Well,
The
force of the comment was that people are giving, but it doesn't mean that we haven't paid for the water. It doesn't mean that we haven't paid for all the bills. So it's not magic. People have been very faithful giving to their pledges, and the functioning of the church functioning of the church is working very well. But we are still faced with creating a budget for the next year that takes into consideration the fact that our insurance is 3 times higher than it was last year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the short answer is we're doing the best we can. Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to share anything? I hope, this is convoluted and I know that it seems odd, but I hope that you can leave this place with a sense of joy about you. Because though it's not the same, God is active in this place. I have seen people's lives change because of what you all do in this church. This church is changing people's lives. It's ministering to people in ways that you don't even know. I've had occasion to visit with Joe Brozick a couple times in the past few weeks, and with Jerry Healy, and surprisingly also Gladys. Hard lady to get a hold of sometimes, but these are people who consider this place to be formative in their faith, to be really important for who they are as people. And that has nothing to do with me, it has to do with you guys. So you have been a blessing in this world. And we're going to continue to be a blessing in this world. And this is something about which we ought to be ridiculously thankful, because we have each other and we have a goal, and that is the proclamation of God's love in the world. And what I can tell you is that that love needs to be shared more and more and more all the time. You have anything? You said it well. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Because I know that Lee probably wants to practice and would like to throw us out. If not, thank you for coming. I'd like to invite our intern to say a prayer for us before we go.
Oh, and we have one more.
We do? Slide?
The last slide.
Oh, okay, go.
We have an announcement. We have a new logo for Our Redeemer. This has been in development for several months. In collaboration with the council, going through, we probably went through a dozen drafts until we ended up with this. And so we wanted to just officially announce it. You've probably already started to see it in some emails and publications. The reason for a logo like this and redesign is to bring our church into something that is recognizable at first glance, something that can be identifiable in our community. So when people see Our Redeemer, they know, when they see the letters ORLC, they know it's us. When they see that circle with a cross in it, they know it's us. Just a few symbols that were considered in the making of this. Blue symbolizes hope and expectation. Gold symbolizes the eternity and divinity of Christ. If you can see the circle, while circle represents eternity and togetherness and unity, it's not quite complete. There's a motion of the circle reaching together, because we're always in process of joining together with God and each other, which is the center of what we do. The cross is positioned front and center as Jesus is centered as the mission of our church, and it's simple and bold so that Our Redeemer might be easily recognized in our community and beyond. So if you have more questions about it, feel free to speak to me or council members. We're excited to roll this out and to have all the new signs printed and continue to do more outreach with a vision that shows that we are here for our community. We're here for the world, for doing this work for the sake of the world. And so we want to start moving more in outreach efforts while speaking to the truth of who we are. So this is part of that process. So. Oh, and now I'm closing with prayer. Okay. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Dear God, you are with us and you guide us through the highs and lows of our days. You guide us from Sunday morning worship into the ministry center on Wednesdays and into our busy lives. God, help us to be a community that follows in your footsteps, that walks the road in a way that serves others, that shows the world your love. Help us to love our neighbors of our community here in Garden Grove, of our country, and of people beyond across the world. Help us to focus our mission on that love and center all that we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Well, thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions...